Okay.
Hello, chat. I tweeted, I think.
You did. Because I retweeted it. So
Yeah.
either you tweeted it or somebody hacked your account and tweeted that we were live, which seems unlikely.
Yeah. I just got distracted by this very strange Ezra Miller tweet that was retweeted in my timeline.
Fascinating.
What an unusual person. Okay. Yes, they have, Grey Lego. Yes, they have. This headline has been housing 3 children in a gun-filled farm.
Okay.
Seems like a bad idea.
It's
Yeah.
apparently there are 8 firearms in the living room, and the 1-year-old had the bullet in their mouth.
Oh, sure. That seems safe.
I don't.
Like I when my kids were young enough to crawl around, I tethered the television to the wall and put things in the electric sockets. But sure, live ammunition left around, that seems safe.
Strange. Yes. Thank you for that, Mr. Bungalow.
Is there lead in those?
That is
That
that
seems like
is
the
that
least.
that is a safety concern. I admit that wasn't what I'd gotten to yet,
Yeah.
but you're not wrong to worry.
That's not my first concern.
That's
when it
not
comes
a concern. It's listen.
it's a valid concern, but that's low on my list of things that concern me as a parent about that particular scenario.
For sure, for sure. But like removing all of the things that could fire it, the lead is probably
I
the
mean, if
most.
they swallow it, like the lead is probably the least of your concerns.
Well, yeah, yeah, for sure.
I think
I
the
mean, I
most
guess if they're
dangerous
just
thing in this
sniffing it,
scenario is
then
probably Ezra Miller.
mm,
Yeah. Hang on, I'm gonna turn on the overhead light.
All right. Let me see. Okay, I think I have everything loaded up here. All right. I'm gonna test this
I
one
approve
more
of the
time.
Donut County shirt, by the way.
Okay. Sounds good. My internet seems to be holding steady. I was unable
That's
to
good.
play Hearthstone yesterday after like 6 o'clock because Fios just decided we're going to drop packets on a routine basis without telling
Really,
you when.
FiOS. I've never
Yeah.
had a problem like that with FiOS. Huh.
It was trending on Twitter. They tried to blame Cloudflare, and I was like, that was yesterday. But apparently it fixed itself. But yeah, I was unable to even log into BNet.
Wow.
And I updated the firmware in my router, restarted the routers, restarted the modem, updated the drivers in my computer, restarted the computer, tried it on mobile, and it was 100% the ISP. 100,000, 10,000%.
Wow.
I tested a lot of different devices. I also had a moment where I checked my Wi-Fi router, and it said I had 22 attached devices. Which seemed like a lot.
That seems low.
There are only 2 people live here.
Still seems low.
Yeah. Anyways, seems to be fine now, but if the internet goes down, I have devised a solution that I hope I don't need, so I'm not gonna speak it into existence.
Yeah, no, let's just pretend that doesn't exist, so we don't put that. So we don't have to use that.
We have dropped 0 frames right now, and I am tempting fate by saying this out loud, and we're just gonna roll with it.
So as long as the solution is not like Edel and I continue to do the podcast and then leave spots for you to talk and fill in the rest later.
No. See, this headset is Bluetooth compatible, so the recording is local. So I would Bluetooth in on my phone and continue recording on the desktop. So then I would Discord here, but then keep recording into this microphone here, and then be able to upload my audio file at least to Edelweiss.
This sounds like 15 seconds before the MacGruber like bunker explodes.
We shouldn't need to do it.
What's going to happen is we're not going to realize until we're done recording, and then...
It's true mathematical. I lied. I'm a liar.
Yeah.
Anyways,
You've
we've
doomed
already
us all.
attempted Fate Planning. It's fine. It's fine. All right. Should we? Speaking of local recording, should we do a local recording?
We should probably. That's a good idea. It makes for a better podcast when you actually record it.
Yes. All right.
Okay. Oh wait, you wanted me to change it to mono, right? Hang on.
Okay.
Oh, very jealous, Robitussin.
Hang on. Okay.
2
let me.
gigabit. That's a lot of gigabits.
All right. I am recording in mono this time. I'm very proud of myself for remembering because I can't remember what I had for breakfast this morning.
Thank you. Doesn't matter that much. It's just easier to see.
No, I know every little bit helps, and even just like I know you can mix it down to mono, but like you shouldn't have to.
Okay. So
It's fine. It's all better than my mother-in-law's audio for the Young and Ever After podcast, where it's my old mic, and I'm like, it's kind of hard to see waves.
you have to like crank it to super max and then just put it like right here, and then you can kind of get something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Shall we do the thing?
We should.
Recording.
All right. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. Start the show in 5, 4, 3, 2.
Shadows hide you. I am listening. Our paths converge.
So good to see you.
Hail to you. Never lose hope.
Here for a chat.
I hear you. It has only begun. Fight on, friend.
Hello and welcome to episode 349 of Coin Concede, a Hearthstone podcast dedicated to making the competitive side of the game more accessible to you. It is at Thursday, June 23rd in the evening from Gadsden, New York. It's me, Ridiculous Hat. From Nomergon, Ohio, we've got Edelweiss.
Hello.
And from Northern Massachusetts, we have Wicked Good.
Hi.
Hello. Also, listener, we have you from where you are. Thank you so much. Thank you for your reviews. Thank you for your Patreon subscriptions. Thank you for being you. CD Moyer, thank you for being our newest patron. We really appreciate the support. You can support us over on patreon.com/coinconcede, or you can leave us a review. Totally free. Helps other people find the show. Live and Ladder. Let's go. Steve, you get to start because what you're talking about is the thing that the universe is talking about this week, at least in context of Hearthstone.
Dodging COVID? Well,
Steve, you get to
I
go
guess-
first because one of the two things that you're talking about is what everyone else is talking about.
Yeah, I am happy to say so far I've been dodging the COVID in my house, though Twin B came down with it on Friday right after we finished recording. So we were, there was optimism in my voice and in my heart when we recorded last, and then that happened first thing Friday morning, and we were kind of worried, especially because she was sleeping in the same room as the older child, but somehow the rest of us have all dodged it. So we're on day 6 for the second one. So I think we're in the clear, hopefully. So we're, they've been allowed to come out of their room with masks on, which has been nice because it's like we haven't actually seen them for, a few days, and they've apparently been feral, left to their own devices, 2 13-year-olds in a bedroom with an attached bathroom for a week. So you can imagine what kinds of horrors await us up there. Yeah, but at least I've managed to dodge it, and so is Maureen and the oldest. So that's been a relief. And yeah, I've been I've been jamming Big Scam Mage a lot over the last couple days. It's been kind of going 50-50 for me. I've been kind of bouncing around like the the 1,000 to 2,000 legend ranks, like just close enough to the 11x ranks, but not quite there. And and the meta seems to cycle around whatever the latest fad is. So sometimes you just end up into whatever. I mean, the list has been getting refined. The list was kind of bad when I was first playing it. I probably need to try the slightly more refined lists, but I am, it's scam or be scammed is what it's felt like, a lot on ladder the last few days. So I figure if I'm gonna get scammed, then I may as well be scamming some people occasionally. And that's worked out. And you get to play terrible arena cards like Ram Commander and Mailbox Dancer unironically.
Okay,
So
one of those is still in the deck, and the other is Ram Commander. You will not besmirch Mailbox Dancer's good name in this household. Not only is that sometimes an innervate, that is sometimes an innervate combined with 10 free mana.
If your opponent doesn't,
doing.
Yeah, if your opponent doesn't know what they're doing, then it is. But yeah, it's I know I'm feeling the groove. I'm with it. But yeah, I mean that deck is it is what it is, right? I think like it seems like we kind of get to this point where we get all the powerful things, and then they all get nerfed, and all that's left is Puzzle Box, and then we have Puzzle Box, right? Like that's kind of where we are. That I mean, it also kind of helps that people figured out the barbaric sorceress interaction, probably like maybe like a week or so before the deck got popular, but just wasn't good enough. And now it's fine. So now we have Puzzle Box again. And it's like, it kind of feels like you want ants, this is how you get ants, but it's it's fun to it's been fun to scam people occasionally. I think that it's one of those things that's really fun for like a day, and then once you realize that it's actually viable, then ennui starts to set in a little bit. But I've been enjoying it more often than not, and at least it's been going 50-50 for me. So, but I've been playing a little bit of everything. I played a bunch of Control Shaman today. I haven't really gotten into any of the aggro decks, but played some Control Paladin.
What aggro decks?
Yeah. Well, there's Fel DH is kind of an aggro deck. Murloc Shaman's a thing.
No. Fel DH is a DH deck. It is Soul Demon Hunter. We have like one aggro deck that's doing okay right now, and that is, I guess, 1.5, right? There's Murloc Shaman, like actual Murloc Shaman, not Control Murloc Shaman. Yeah. And then there's half of Big Beast Hunter. But the other half of that deck is decidedly not aggressive.
You could argue that, half of Thief Rogue is somewhat aggressive.
I could argue that the Gnolls are aggressive, and then there are also 28 other cards.
The boats are pretty aggressive too.
Those aren't even those aren't even in the deck that you don't like.
No, I'm okay with that. I mean, I'm not saying that the boat Thief Rogue is the one that's making me want to uninstall. I did get parlayed for exact lethal, and that was a dark moment for me. But other than that, it's
that wasn't where I expected the story to go, but here we are.
Yeah. Well, they had two Wicked Stabs in hand, and they parlayed my Starfish to get through my taunt, and then I was dead. So yeah, that was the thing that happened, and then I decided that was enough Hearthstone for the day. But I was of mind enough to know that was variance.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was. Yeah.
And just kind of took a break for a little bit, and I was fine. So.
Okay. That story makes I feel a little upset. I feel a little that parlayed for the Starfish for lethal.
Yeah. Oh, you were upset. I had some words.
It hurts now, days later, in someone else's game, losing to my favorite class. I'm still kind of upset about it.
It was offensive to me on a personal, physical, and spiritual level, losing that way.
That's messed up.
Yes, that loss was basically a hate crime.
And it was against a priest?
No, I wasn't playing priest. I was probably playing shaman if I had starfish in my
Okay.
deck.
This is how Thoughtsteel
No.
felt, Steve. This is how Thoughtsteel has felt for years.
Yeah, except that when priest thought steal, it would just take the cards and then it wouldn't kill you for another 20 turns. Like you didn't die right then.
Or at all.
Usually. Or at all, ever, yeah.
Worse, not better.
Yeah. Anyways, Edelweiss, did you lose to Parlay this week? You're muted.
Whoop. No, that's happened in the last month or two, but it has not happened to me in the last week.
I'm glad to hear that. What has happened to you in the past week?
So people started playing the Big Scam Mage, and so I thought, well, what's really good against that? Quest Hunter. Okay, how do we not worry about them playing Rune? We play Ice Trap, and I do not lose to that deck. I don't lose to that deck at all.
Okay. You probably beat
What
Shaman
about
too.
all the other decks, though?
You probably beat Shaman.
We went 70%. We did all right.
Okay.
This format is so hard up for lethality that you can just cut the best card from the deck after they decimate it with a nerf and just do other stuff. Does Shell Shot, the new one, the 3/2/1 card, does it proc each hit or just once? Just once, right?
No, it does not proc each hit because that would be broken and everyone would be doing this and they would not be running secrets.
Okay, that's
That would be gross. That
Still a
would
good
have
card.
been like the Barb thing. It is still a really good card. Lots of flexibility. You know, if someone plays Boat, then you kill both of them if that's the only minions they have in play because it hits 1 for 3 and then it can't hit that anymore and then it hits the other one for 2 and then 1. So really nice damage lineup there. It's also Nature, which is the 4th spell school, which means Multicaster now draws us 4 cards. I regularly draw through my whole deck if you hit the cards right, because double Multicaster, Barak, plus 2 bunkers means that there's a lot of consistency. It's also slower, so you're not as much getting that turn 6 Tavish in play, but since you are going a bit longer, drawing more cards, I do get to more frequently play the hero before completing stage 2 of the quest. So multiple times today, I've gotten to do the free Tavish, animal companion hero power, and just, I would say kill people with Huffers, except I didn't roll that many Huffers, but every once in a while kill people with Huffers, mostly kill people with repeated boards and Leox, because eventually you can run even a Holy Smite Paladin out of their clears. So, yeah, it's been a good time.
Seems like it. Okay. I mean, on the one hand, I wasn't expecting this. On the other hand, I kind of was. I figured you would have some goofy nonsense that you were doing that was pretty good in your pocket.
I mean, I was in Edel stream today, but even if I hadn't been, I would probably be expecting something like this. So
Look,
I wasn't
if
expecting this, but something like this. Absolutely.
If this hadn't worked out, the next down the list of things I would have worked on was revisiting the quest control warrior, because double Juggernaut is a really good way to kill paladins.
Okay. Everything's in order here.
I mean, there's always Quest Paladin that you haven't really explored yet. There might be something there.
No, there isn't.
No.
There's super not.
I tried that one before, and it requires... Okay, here's the problem with Quest Paladin. Either it's a 4-set meta, so there's not enough 1-drops, or it's not a 4-set meta, so you have enough 1-drops, so you play something else. Because if there's enough good 1-drops, you probably should be doing a different aggressive paladin. Now, maybe I'll be proven wrong if they print good 1-drops alongside really solid silver hand support, but it'll take a lot to make Quest Paladin real.
It wasn't good enough when we had Penslinger in first day, and now we have neither of those, because a deck that it gives you a hero power that gives you some kind of mid-game value, but you have to spend all of your other value to get there on a bunch of 1-drops, and then you have to hope that the Jiraxis hero power, except 2 smaller bodies without the weapon, is good enough. It isn't. Anyways, it's okay. Not every quest has to be good. Unlike Quest Hunter, which is clearly a meta factor. I have been playing a little bit. Got eliminated out of THL. I won both my matches, but our teams got eliminated because they nerfed 12 cards on Thursday, and then after we finished the show, we had to scramble and do lineups. And you will see from the tournament data, nobody knows what the hell was happening this past weekend. No one has any idea. Having played ladder a bunch yesterday, I still don't know what the hell is happening. Other than we're in a format where you can kind of do whatever you want except for consistently play 1-drops. There aren't really many 1-drops that you actually want to play. This isn't... Aggro barely exists right now, except for Murloc Shaman with Clownfish draws. But I was trying, Bach for Life in our Discord had this... He had a super aggressive Nature Druid deck that he called Marvel Snap because the game was always over on turn 6, one way or another. And I think that deck made a lot more sense before Double Spammy Arcanist became a routine thing that you saw. But going wide with tokens in a Druid deck, when Double Spammy Arcanist, Double Starfish are a thing, nah. So... I don't know, I've just been trying stuff, but I am at the point where I am falling back into quadruple-digit ranks because I don't like any deck, and I keep playing because I want to find a deck to like, and it just never happens. I got all my class to 1,000 wins last week. And by all my classes, I mean, I did the last 100 for Demon Hunter in the past month, and then the last 10 for Paladin after that. Because Paladin had been in the high 9s for, I think, a year. Or whatever. I just don't play a lot of Paladin. So I got DH over the line, and I looked at Paladins where am I at? Oh, 986. Okay. So, did it. But, it's nothing I really want to play right now. And there's been a lot of talk on social media. A lot of discourse around this meta. But something that I've noticed, dear listener, is that at the end of the 3rd month in an expansion cycle, people find problems with the meta. And I'm not going to say that there aren't any real criticisms to be had of this environment. There are real, legitimate, actual concerns you could have. But at this time, in the expansion cycle, they tend to come up a lot. Now, this is an environment that it's more interesting than 4-set metas usually are at this point in the cycle. You can play something in almost any class, if not actually any class. There's something to do. Maybe not Warrior, I don't know.
Druid's kind of not a thing right now either.
It's not great, but there's a Vandar Ramp Druid list in the Vicious Syndicate report.
Whenever you start with Vandar, you know you have my attention. Oh, wait, you don't. No, because Vandar is terrible.
I'm not saying that it's great. We are once again in a position where if we're at the end of Barons... You can look at every deck in the forum and say, not a single one of these will survive an expansion release. Because there will be power somewhere for everybody that is better than what we're doing right now. I guarantee that after the expansion, whenever it comes out, the next expansion, it will not be a barbaric sorceress mailbox dancer meta. Those will not be meta-defining cards. I feel really, really, really confident. But right now, you can kind of do whatever you want, but I don't want to do anything. A lot of people don't want to do anything. There's a lot of conversation. Is it too random? Maybe if you're Steve and you get turn 4 Drakefire amuleted by a rogue, then maybe it is.
Or parlayed for lethal.
Yes, a parlethal. But it's not necessarily more or less random than anything else. The number 1 deck is Holy Paladin, which is not high variance. Big Beast Hunter, sure, you get Harpoon Gun hits. Fell Demon Hunter, you don't even have Carria low rolls anymore. We cut Carria. So we'll see what happens. But this is the end of a 4-set meta, It's an environment I normally don't engage with particularly, and we're at the point where it feels stale because after 3 months with the same cards, it always feels stale. My opinion is I don't really have any opinions right now. It's fine. It's fine.
And this is kind of the thing that we warn about, right? I mean, and I'm not saying that the balance changes shouldn't have happened, right? But like when you nerf everything powerful, then you're left with what's left, right? Like, I mean, we've had a lot of nerfs of a lot of powerful cards, and you kind of have to do that in a 4-set meta. And we can have a discussion that I don't think we want to have right now about whether 4 sets is enough cards or whatever. But like, there were a fair number of powerful things, but the powerful things in 4-set metas are outliers because there aren't enough powerful cards or enough powerful decks to go around, right? So you end up with a couple of decks that are outliers in terms of power. So you nerf them, and eventually you nerf everything. And then what you have left is, random jank off a jackpot and, barbaric sorceress making infinite runes and, a parade of murlocs that in a control deck for some reason. And that's what you have left, right? You have a bunch of Yetis hitting into each other.
I mean, there's a bit more right now than a bunch of Yetis. We don't we don't have Spite Lash pop-off turns, but we're still getting like pretty fast Drakefire amulets. Fell Demon Hunter has Sathino turns that are really, really powerful. You can have good turns, just
right.
There isn't enough redundancy at any mana slot, so people are playing things at every mana slot, so it gets curve stony. And I think this is an intended design and an intended goal for this time of year because this is the time of year when some people have the most fun. And yeah, some people really love this. Edelweiss, you love this stuff. You love when Wild Paw Cavern's one of the best things you can do in turn 4. Having a good time, I'm sure. Yeah.
I really do. So I didn't enjoy it last time, both because there were fewer cards than currently.
No mini set. Yep.
And the thing was priest, and I didn't appreciate that. Like the
Rogue.
mainstream
Rogue was
priest was kind of milkshakey. So, and the thing that I liked the most was Rush Warrior, which was surprise bad against priest. But right now, I still feel like there's a lot of exploration to be done. In part because certain things are so depowered. Wicked Good, of course, out here forcing me to put Vandar in my next deck experiment because now I just have to do that. It's right.
I mean, the best decks are built out of spite, so that's fair.
Exactly. So Abyssal Depths Vandar, Big Demon Hunter, Big Demon Hunter. That's probably what it's going to be. But it's. I get that certain players don't like this, but. Also, there's not that much from hand damage, so I get to do some certain kinds of wackier things because I don't get OTK'd out of nowhere.
Yeah.
I did die to a Naval Mine Warlock today, though, because I didn't realize what they were doing. I didn't think that was still around.
Hold on a second. Hold on. You said Naval Mine, and I filled in the sentence with Rogue, and then you didn't say Rogue. You said a different word.
This was a Kibler deck, I think.
Warlock.
Yeah. They use Naval Mine instead of the Owl.
So after life tapping on 2, then they play a card and they stay a Warlock for the rest of the game.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, they had the 2 Ruined Mithril Rods, so was kind of rough. But against a different Warlock, I learned today that Abyssal Curses advance the Hunter Quest because Abyssal Curses needed to be worse.
They just nerfed the Hunter Quest. This wouldn't come up very much, but yeah, that was their spell. They're your spells that do damage.
Yeah.
So it only does it once. It does it for the first tick, but not the second tick. That's still hilarious and definitely got them killed. Because they're in this situation as well where they want to curse you to do more damage. And it's like, wait, every curse they get to every curse I get to cast and deal 2 damage to them.
Oh, because it refreshes so it ticks your quest and refreshes your hero power later when you play it. Listen, this is the morality lesson. This is the parable for warlocks that every curse has a consequence, whether you're the cursor or the cursee.
I'm sure they were cursing a lot during that game.
Yeah.
Yeah. Magic comes with a price.
Yeah.
At least it's not a shadow spell, so that people aren't drawing 5 cards off their multicasters.
Oh my god.
Yeah, or replaying it off a Dawn Grasp or whatever. Yeah.
And just to be clear, like I'm not really playing that much less, and I'm not enjoying this meta. I just find that my tilt threshold is a lot lower than normal. Because of what I'm facing. And I think that, those kinds of things ebb and flow. Like this is a control meta. This is where, I am ostensibly happy about this. And it is because what I, as a control player, get tilted when I lose to things that I could not possibly play around, or I shouldn't play around, right? So like that's where I get tilted, and some of these are often enough that they kind of build up, and so it's not that I'm not enjoying myself playing the game, but I also find that my play sessions are shorter because of some of the things that I'm playing against, and that's also my own personal damage, but I'm sure that I'm not the only one who feels that way or is trying to climb and then is set, especially if you're trying to climb, you're trying to make your first legend climb or whatever, and you get set back, or you're in a final boss, you get knocked down by getting parlayed for lethal, right? Like that's that is something
that doesn't happen to anybody
unpleasant.
else. That's just a you specific story.
I'm just channeling Bodicus but I'm like Bizarro Bodicus, because Bodicus is usually winning that way and I'm the one losing that way. But
maybe you should play more rogue. Maybe you should play more rogue.
I mean, I don't see how that's going to help anything.
You get to be the scammer. I don't know.
I was playing Big Scam Mage.
It's Swift Scale Trickster off Jackpot. Like Jackpot Trickster, I think is scammier than most things that Mage does if they hit. The thing is, Jackpot has so many fail cases that you often don't hit, and Rune of the Archmage surprisingly reliable.
Yeah.
There are fail cases, but you generally know what it's going to do. Anyways, I agree with you. My sessions are shorter, my tilt factor is larger, but I'm just saying, regardless of this meta's unique factors, my tilt factor is always larger at the end of the 3rd month. Happens every single time. I always look back and it's been 3 months of these cards. It's much easier to see the things that I dislike about them than enjoy about them when they're no longer novel. So,
You can kind of set your watch to this, right? I mean, that's basically what it is. I mean, we're probably like 1 to 2 weeks out from a new expansion announcement.
Really?
I would expect so. I mean, we're almost into July.
We should get the new expansion. We can speculate now. This is all speculation, but it's usually within the first 14 days of August, within the first 2 weeks. Yeah. August 7th, August 14th, both Thursdays. Usually for expansions, they do Tuesday launch and the patch is on a Thursday, so probably on the 7th. Maybe on the 14th. I don't know. We'll see. Yeah. If it's on the 14th, that would be a 19th release. That's pretty late. So I'm going to guess August 7th, and then the expansion on the 12th. Which means if we get the pre-patch on the 7th, that's when they tell us all the cards, which means they usually announce a month before that, which would be the 9th.
Yeah. And I guess one other data point,
2
right,
weeks.
is that the other data point is that, and we'll talk about this in tournaments, but they're going to be doing Battlegrounds reveals for the next patch as part of Lobby Legend this weekend, right? So if they're doing reveals for the next patch is probably not that far away. The next patch that they would be doing content would also be when they'd be adding the pre-order for the new expansion, presumably.
Could be. It's soonish. There's a lot of there are a lot of rumors going around as well about could this be earlier, because I know the Sunken City Tavern Pass says it's only available through the 26th or the 25th, something like that.
Of July?
Of July. So the 26th is a Tuesday, which, if that is the pre-launch patch and it's a week early, would place the expansion launch on August 2nd, which is earlier than we've usually had it. and apparently Donkey is saying Master Tour number 5 is August 12th. So if the release of the set is on... So the earlier dates that I said were... Yeah, August... It would be July 28th, August 2nd, or August 4th to the 9th. Could be a patch on the 4th with the expansion on the 9th, and then 3 days to prep. That's pretty aggro, though. 3 days to prep for a brand new expansion is pretty aggro. I don't know. Point here is...
I mean, we've also seen that the esports team sets their dates well in advance, and the patches land when they land. So
I would expect early August.
Yeah.
First couple weeks. Probably before the Masters Tour in the 12th. So, yeah, we should get reveals. Probably 2 weeks from today, we should probably have a new card to talk about. That's what I would guess.
I would imagine.
2 weeks from today. So, just kind of chilling, just kind of waiting. Because it's been, 1 week since the last patch, which means we're also coming pretty close to the 0.6 patch, which is they do a major patch a month, which means a month from the mini set they should do the 0.6 patch, which is usually the pre-order patch. And the pre-order patch usually means that... Oh, no. This is my fault. Do I sound terrible?
Oh, a bit, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, super.
Verizon! Okay. Well, we're going to keep going and trying. But forgive me, Twitch. I'm going to sound
I mean, the
terrible
stream,
for
I'm
it.
not listening to the stream, but the stream seems to be going, okay.
We'll see. Okay. Well, my local recording is fine. We'll figure it out. The patch that is coming up as well is the 0.6 patch, usually a month after the mini set. There's not really anything in that patch that they specifically plan on. At first, it was supposed to be the Mercs patch, but then they moved all that stuff to 0.4. So we'll see what happens. But we should be getting that patch in I don't know, a couple weeks probably, which is also the pre-order patch. Yeah. Who knows?
Yeah. And if nothing else, that's usually a good distraction from the meta because you get to do all the theory crafting and figuring out what the cards are. So.
Well,
yeah,
we'll see.
I'm calling it. Last week of July.
Oh, I hope you're right.
I would actually love that because normally it falls on or around my anniversary, which is first week of August. So, and I mean, not that Maureen doesn't play Hearthstone as much as I do, but it's still, I like not having to make that awkward discussion. So,
I would
I
like
just think
it
if they're trying,
yeah,
if they're gonna try and push things up so that the winter break is less hectic, which I heard was potentially a desire.
Oh, that could make sense too.
They were trying for that right before COVID. They were aiming for getting the third expansion away from Christmas, which would mean the goal there would probably be to launch around Thanksgiving-ish so they can get a patch in before and after the holidays without having to scramble to do it. We'll see if that ends up happening.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll see. This is all just rumors and gossip, but the date on the items in the store has led us down the right path before. So we'll see what happens. But could also just be a red herring. You never know.
That would be appropriate for the Sunken City expansion.
But not the next expansion, maybe? I don't know. Anyways, we have a little bit of news, but it's mostly been settling since the patch, so we'll just talk through it briefly.
Gadgets and Gazette always gets the scoop.
All right, Prime Gamers. Prime Gaming rewards are there for you. The new Prime Gaming rewards are refreshed. If you are subscribed to Twitch Prime or Amazon Prime, whatever, then you get a random legendary and the Beach Party skins for BGs, which are older but also great, and they're included. It's more stuff included in your membership, so go get them. That is at Twitch, Hearthstone.
It's gaming.amazon.com.
Gaming.amazon.com. /loot/Hearthstone if you want to go straight there. So yeah, go claim your stuff. You can wait until this expires if you think you're going to get it before the next expansion, but you better set a calendar reminder because you don't want to miss it. I just claimed it. I don't know if we're going to get it or not or whatever. I don't care. And then we had an XR AMA about 5 days ago, as usual. There weren't a ton of things that were discussed. A couple interesting things. They made the move to 4 expansions per year, which they talked about in the past. They'd have to make changes to the rewards track to make it feel good, which they obviously would. They'd cut the size down, increase rewards to each tier, etc., etc. They talked through, would nerfs or buffs make a format more fun? Like, would Wild be a better format if Novice Engineer went back to 1-2 and if Pyroblast went back to 8 mana? No. You want to say something at all?
Sorry, I hadn't read this yet, and I just read the sentence. All the cards with the new card type have already been approved for the next expansion.
New card.
Yeah, we were promised a new card type in the interview with Ben Lee.
Have the cards with the new card type been approved for one of the next expansions?
Okay.
If so, can you give a hint? Yes, they have been approved, no hints. So,
Okay.
it says one of the next expansions. Could be this one. Could be not this one. But soon, maybe. TM. Yeah. This one was interesting. Mercenaries features. Let me make sure I have this right. There were some teases about big Mercs moments, changes, system level stuff. And his response was, our additional feature plans for Mercs are still a ways out, at least 6 months, though we do have content drops before that. The follow-up question, does this mean extra coins or PvE endgame are no longer expected this year, as previously mentioned, or is additional features referring to other things? The response was, still unsure, we'd like to ship as soon as possible, but still some design work necessary before we start locking everything in. Our hope is that we'll have most of feature work done by end of the year, but likely it'll spill into early next year. That said, there will be updates along the way. How is a mode that was delayed so much still so unfinished? I don't know if this means we're not going to get any kind of stopgap fix for Mercs at all for the excess coins thing. But if we don't, I am just beyond disappointed, just kind of stunned. If we don't get something within, if it's 6 more months to figure this out.
Yeah, it sounds like it was pushed to launch when it launched and it wasn't quite ready, and then decisions were made, and and then there are some decisions that you can't just code out, and it's a lot easier to change things before code is written and before stuff is out in the wild, and it's a lot harder to change something fundamental like the economy of a mode once it's already out there. And it sounds like they've had to reevaluate maybe more than just that, right? Maybe they just had to kind of go back and say, well, this is not doing what we wanted it to do. Maybe they had to go back to the drawing board, and if they're going to make a lot of big changes, better to do those all at once than do a piecemeal. I think that we would all like a coin revamp, but maybe that's kind of just tied into so many other major code changes that it just needs some more time. I mean, even if they're talking about design work, right? And they're probably testing a bunch of things too, and maybe they probably had an idea of how this was going to go when they said that we've got a rework that's coming soon, and then they tested it and found that it wasn't achieving whatever goals they had. And we don't know which goals it might have been, player expectation. There might have been something from, the business team, who knows. Right. But it definitely does sound like this is them taking a look at that mode and saying, what happened? What do we do with this? And that takes a while when you're trying to change, load bearing pieces of code.
I'd be pretty surprised if any kind of solution to the excess coin thing is a technical issue. Like there's
No, it's
something,
probably
but
yeah. I don't know that it's a technical issue as much as it's like a system issue, right? And then like because like you're creating kind of a cascade effect when you do that, right? Because maybe if you're giving too many coins, right? If you're giving, depending on how you're compensating for the excess coins, maybe that means that you're running through all the PvE content much more quickly, and then you have to rebalance all that, and how do you compensate all the players that have stuff there, and like there's a whole bunch of other things that you start thinking about once you start making like a major change to the way that you've been doing things. I don't know that it's a technical limitation as much as it's this is in the hands of players and now we have to work with that in addition to whatever actual technical work we need to do, if that makes sense.
yeah, Mercs isn't in the hands of players right now because I don't think a lot of people are playing it. So it's
Yeah.
if you unbalance PvE, but you get people playing the mode, I think that's still some upside. I mean, I don't know. Maybe there's something else going on here that I like. Clearly, there's something, but I would be surprised if they can't figure out the problem that's been shared with them since the day that Mercs launched, 14 months later.
Yeah.
That seems like a long time to figure out the thing that people are asking for, and they've repeatedly acknowledged that they know about it.
Yeah.
So I'm just really curious about what the difference is between, like, that distance between knowing about it and fixing it seems like a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely a bit disappointed about the no excess coins solution yet, but I'm not terribly surprised. When they said that they were working on it, I did expect it to be this year, like later this year, but I didn't expect it anytime soon. I does feel like they made the announcement at that one BlizzCon just probably a year too early, and then their hands were sort of tied to release it, or it felt that way. But I'm still playing a decent amount. I liked the new content release, and I have been finishing both of the events that they've done. I did the Nazoth event, I did the Yasharaj event, and every once in a while I do some PvP, and there's some interesting new comps to try. There's stuff that I'm curious to try, but I don't quite have the coins yet to make it work. So I've got like stuff to do there. Definitely some of my playing it has been because I'm not in that hyperactive, joyous, building all kinds of decks standard mode that I get into, right? It's because we are sort of in the later end of standard meta, but yeah, it's a nice thing for me when sort of my main thing is I'm watching Netflix or YouTube or whatever, and then I play some Mercs. But yeah, it does feel unfortunate that things are so far in the distance.
It's just not what I expected to hear with how much they've been working on it, how much they've talked about it. And maybe this is just managing expectations, and maybe we have something coming sooner than this. It just is surprising to hear that there's not just like a slam dunk answer that they have ready to go.
Yeah.
I mean, I do think it may surprise people just how few people are on the teams because there's so many different modes and everything. So there's the design element, but then also I imagine the people writing the code are maybe spread a bit thin. I would not be surprised if some of the delay has been that people's time is being put towards stabilization, which there has also been a big cry of like, hey, fix these bugs and take care of this other stuff, get the client stable. So yeah, it would not surprise me if stabilizing the client has also led to delays in implementing some kinds of Merc stuff.
Yeah, and that's always going to take a higher priority, as it should. And I think you're probably right on with the BlizzCon announcement, because that was the BlizzCon online, and there was not a whole lot else in that BlizzCon to get excited about. There was like the 30th anniversary collection of like, you know, the Lost Vikings and stuff, and there were, and I mean, there was the new expansion, just the general new expansion announcement, which we expected, but there wasn't really a whole lot else in that BlizzCon, as I remember. Maybe there was something like Classic WoW or something related. But there weren't a whole lot of like big new announcements. So they may have been pressured to just announce that. And they did, it was just a teaser, right? And then once you've shown that, you kind of need to, you know, I mean, I guess you don't, because I mean, they showed us Diablo 4 and BlizzCon in person, and we still don't have it.
The Mercenaries reveal was 5 minutes of a conversation between Kibler and Ben Lee with one screenshot, and then nothing for 6 months, or longer. They didn't have to give us anything for us. If they gave us something, there might have been internal pressure, but there was no external pressure because we didn't know what we were waiting for. So
no, that's what I mean, internal pressure to have announcements for that BlizzCon. I don't think it was external pressure. I think it might have been internal pressure to like, we need something to show, right? So
yeah. I don't know. We'll see. I hope that this is just reading too much into a throwaway comment and that we get some stuff, because he did say content drops. But the system level stuff about excess coins is, until they figure out something there, the player base is not going to be able to move past it. They've made that pretty clear. Yeah, Lepton is a good point in chat. They wanted to get Mercenaries out while the Mercenaries were still in Standard. So they did. Yeah. So, either way, we also have, there's a bunch of answers about design. What are things that they would talk about? Removing core set cards from Standard mid-expansion, or like mid-year, would they do that? Probably not. What do they look at when they consider buffing cards? What are goals with expansion designs? You know, there's stuff in the AMA worth checking it out. But we're going to go to tournaments now and briefly discuss the Clown Fiesta that was the first week of post-nerf lineups.
It's the Grand Tournament!
Yeah. So we had qualifiers last weekend. They started about 8 hours after the nerfs, and it was a volatile weekend. We had a number of decks that were at the top of the win rate list. Every time that I refreshed it, it was a different deck that was at the top, though Control Paladin was kind of up there, you know, most of the weekend. Fell Demon Hunter and Thief Rogue were popular all throughout the weekend, and you could see from the trends. And this, you can find all this data at offcurve.com/masters tour, by the way. You can see from the deck trends tab that I have on the dashboard that even I don't use very often, except in weekends like this. That something like Control Shaman and Big Spell Mage started off a little bit lower, and they kind of climbed as the weekend went on. Boar Priest started up fairly high and then declined as the weekend went on, though it still did win some qualifiers even later in the weekend. You had a fairly good variety of decks that were in winning lineups. You had, Fell Demon Hunter, Beast Hunter, Big Spell Mage, Mech Mage, Control Paladin, Mech Paladin, Boar Priest, Naga Priest, Bomb Rogue, Thief Rogue, Control Shaman, Curse Warlock, and one Brave Soul who managed to make it all the way through with Control Warrior after the nerf. Druid is the only class that did not have at least one deck make it through a qualifier this weekend. So I don't know that I would say that this is going to be a trend that's going to persist. We're not actually going to know because there are not qualifiers this weekend. But there's not really like any clear like lineup strategy aside from 3 decks that you think that you can play comfortably, right? Which is going to kind of be the way that most of the lineups are going to be after a nerf like this, because you're not really expecting anything. You're just trying to find decks that you know reasonably well, or about as well as you could, following the nerfs. So If there are 3 decks among those that you find that are good, or 4, if you're playing in another tournament that's 4 decks, I think that, as long as you can find 3 decks that are, you know, not bringing a knife to a gunfight, just because Control Warrior won a qualifier doesn't mean that you're going to win with Control Warrior necessarily. But, if you've been playing a bunch of Rogue and, you played some Control Shaman or you played some big Spell Mage, those are viable decks. There's a bunch of, even Burn Shaman was brought a reasonable amount of time. It doesn't seem like it's as good as Control Shaman. There's like a more aggressive Demon Hunter. I have to see how I'm breaking that down right now. But, I think, like I said in our pre-episode chat, like the tournament section was kind of going to be one big shrug emoji, because I couldn't really tell you what the tournament meta is based on this, because nobody was really targeting anything yet. People were just kind of bringing decks that seemed viable and seeing what worked. I think that, based on this and some, refinement that will have been happening in practice groups, over this past week and over the coming week, I think we will see a different meta, the next time that we see competitive Standard. But it's not, I don't expect it to look like this, I guess is what I would say.
It didn't look like this from the beginning of the weekend to the end of the weekend. Like,
No,
the
it
decks
changed
that were
very
brought
quick.
on Thursday were changed so quickly.
Yeah. Big Spell Mage just kind of showed up on Saturday or or over the day. I think I was playing it on stream Friday night, because I was looking through the data and trying to find stuff to play. But I guess it's worth mentioning that, like, today's the 23rd. So we have, upcoming, we have Lobby Legends this weekend, and then next weekend is Masters Tour 4. So this is all the data we're going to get between now and the next Masters Tour. And the next Masters Tour will tell us pretty definitively, what this competitive landscape looks like. But if you're trying to read the meta based on this, you have some internal practice that you need to do to make sure that you're validating your assumptions, because I don't know that you can necessarily draw any assumptions for what the Masters Tour qualifier meta is going to look like based on this one weekend of extremely volatile qualifier data.
Tells me probably don't bring Druid.
Yeah, I think that's fair. That's pretty safe to say. Maybe don't bring Control Warrior. Okay.
Yeah. Looking at HS Replay, there was a list that was tweeted out today by Habu Gabu.
Of course.
Of course. But he got it from somebody else. Last 3 days in Legend on HS Replay, it is a small sample size and a 57% win rate. It plays Lady Ashvane, plays Treasure Guards, it plays Rancors, it plays Galvangar, but not for combo, just for damage. Maybe Warrior's not dead. I don't know. Maybe Warrior's not dead.
I'm sure it's benefiting at least a little bit from whoever's facing it, thinking that they have to be a rogue, and mulliganing accordingly. I'm sure they're getting at least a couple percentage points from that. But
yeah,
maybe.
Anyways.
But there was that one warrior for a bit before that ran, the axes and Lady Ashvane and
Weapon Warrior, yeah.
Yeah, it just hits you in the face a lot. And the control tools, no, they're not as good, but they're still totally reasonable. I think the fact that you have to run Ranker now is probably a good thing. But yeah, I'm not like super surprised to see the people brave enough to try Warrior again, like having some success. It just has to be different.
Hey, Edel, you know what? If you're running all those early game removal tools and weapons, you totally have room for Vandar in that deck.
No.
Stop baiting. Stop it. Stop it right
It's not
now.
baiting, it's enabling.
Anyways.
We've got that lined up.
Anyway, before I get myself in more trouble. So upcoming, we do, as I mentioned, we have the Masters Tour in 2 weeks. This weekend we have Lobby Legends Eternal Night. So that is going to be starting June 24th which is tomorrow, as you're hearing this, Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. If you're in another time zone, go ahead and look at how that lines up. We had qualifiers over this past weekend. So that's down to 16. Karaman, Good Dummit, Jegunsei, Da Pidao, Koyomi, Beaufort, Kid, Alex JP, Kijilakase, Zorg, XQN, Blizz, Gohan, Valera, Waterloo, and Oliek. So there will be, day one will be the top 16. That'll cut down to top 8 for day 2, and Gia and Educated Collins will be casting, with Sottle doing the observing. And they will also be revealing some, as we mentioned earlier, they will be revealing some sneak peeks from the upcoming, presumably Battlegrounds patch. That's going to be coming at some unspecified date. So if that is of interest to you, then make sure to tune into that. Usually those events are extremely fun. It'll be interesting to see Educated Collins casting. That'll be fun. That'll be fun too. Last time Gia casted with Slissa, and Educated Collins is also an extremely good Battlegrounds player who's got a lot of good analysis. So it'll be fun to see him behind the desk. And these events are always a lot of fun, especially if you want to learn Battlegrounds better, because and Gia is very good at running those streams as well, and kind of calling things out. So if you want to improve at BGs, this is a good event to watch.
Yep, I'm looking forward to watching it. Yeah. And yeah, new content being announced during is a cool and exciting new thing. I've been impressed with Sottles. He's really figured out how to do the observer thing well.
Yeah, even if people don't get his jokes.
They will someday.
Yes.
Right.
Do we want to talk about the VS report at all, or
go read it if you want to see what's going on? Probably play Holy Paladin. Probably do that. Otherwise, I don't know. It's a Vicious Syndicate report. If you like decklist and data, you should go there. Don't listen to us. If you want to hear someone talk about it, I do a podcast where we do that, so you can listen to that show. You can listen to this show. You can listen to both shows. But ViciousSyndicate.com, there are there are a lot of interesting deck lists, but not too many surprises outside of Big Spell Mage, which most people are already aware of because they've queued ladder. Yeah.
It's always funny to me when something shifts and I'm like, gosh, what happened today? Why are everybody... And inevitably someone in chat is like, yeah, the VS report came out. And I'm like, oh yeah, of course, that's what happened.
Yep. So expect to see more Holy Paladins. That's probably coming. All right. Before we get to Dexplanations, hey, breaking news. Ixar has been confirmed as the permanent game director for Hearthstone. Hooray!
Yay! That's good news. That is really good news.
I have
You're
applause
stealing
here
my
somewhere.
coin concede thunder. I was going to say
We can coin concede to him too, but this can't wait.
we will.
This can't
All right,
wait.
fair enough.
Where's my applause? Here. Here we go. We're very excited. Congratulations, Dean.
Yeah.
You've only been playing Hearthstone and been on the team for, 8 years now. Long time. Yeah, good for you. So, cheers. Here's to many more. All right. Now, into Dexplanations, we're going to talk about Murlocs. No, not that way. The slow ones. We're going to talk about clown fishing for value, not clown fishing for tempo. And we've enlisted our resident value expert and tempo refuser, Wicked Good, to help us with it. So let's go.
Okay, so I was not prepared for this. Apparently it had started happening before the nerfs. But what is going on? What is this deck? I'm looking at a shaman, and of course there's Macaws and Bolner and Bran and Snowfall. But there's no bio. What happened to my burn shaman?
It burned out, I think, is what happened. But I actually, the first time I played against this deck, I think I posted in our THL Discord and I just posted the opponent's deck, and I said, "What is this pile of garbage that I just lost to?" And and um and of course had seen it, because of course he had, but like it it looks like a pile, and it works surprisingly well. But it's got a lot. I mean, you're running Schooling, which is actually a much better card than I gave it credit for outside of an aggressive deck. Like, obviously, like you see Schooling with like Piranha, whatever the Piranha Catcher or whatever the Murloc
Oh,
is.
Poacher. Piranha Poacher.
Piranha Poacher, yeah, that gives you a Murloc at the end of your turn or whatever. Like,
No,
like
it gives
you
you
don't need to do
a
that.
Piranha at the end of your turn.
Yeah, sorry, a
Swarmer.
Piranha at the end of your turn. Yeah, so you kind of look at that and you're like, okay, well, I'm gonna do a Swarmer deck. You don't need to do that. Like, Schooling is just like 6 damage removal that you can kind of parcel out. It's almost like a First Flame, really, except you get 3 of them, right? Like, it costs you 4 mana,
and you
but
can attack their face.
eventually, yeah.
Next
I mean,
turn.
Yeah, because
That's
I was
not
playing this
eventually.
before.
That's soon.
I mean, yeah. If they stick, I mean, this was like, because I was playing this into Warriors, and you just Schooling on 1, play the 2 Swarmers on 2. They had no way to remove it, and then you hit them for 5 the following turn. You don't get to do that as much as you do now, but you still just kind of Schooling on 1 and just kind of say what's up, or you have removal for a whole bunch of stuff on board. And then you've got Snowfall Guardians and Sleep Breakers. Some of the lists hard run Wind Chill as well. Some of them don't. The one that we're featuring on the stream is Dead Draw's list that he got rank 1 Legend with. But you do have a decent amount of draw with the Wind Chills. You run Brandon Bolner, and Brandon Bolner just kind of generate a lot of value. You run Wildpaw Cavern because you're a Shaman deck. And you've got a bunch of Murlocs. And the Murlocs do a couple things for you. One, it's that sometimes it's just a lot of tempo. You can kind of play a scuffed Murloc Shaman with this sometimes by just going Clownfish into Ravager, into Amalgam, and you can get a decent sized board going there. If a little bit later, you can actually go Bolner, Clownfish, Ravager, and then you just fill up the board, because every battle cry that you play discounts your next 2 Murlocs by 2. So you can kind of just fill the board entirely. This list runs Firemancer Flurgle, which basically turns those into a Wild Pyromancer that doesn't actually hurt your board, which is pretty relevant occasionally.
Well, and crucially, goes face.
Yes, that is also important. It also does face damage. So
it is more in common with Altruists than with
Yeah.
Wild Pyro, I would say.
That's probably a better comparison, yeah. And other than that, you're just running, you have Command and Epsilon which is a lot of butt, and it's a lot of removal, and it's also 2 5/4s if they stick.
It's
that get to go
Oasis
face your
Searcher.
opponent. Yeah.
We
Yeah.
Oasis Searcher them.
Yeah, with Overload,
Yeah.
but you can, it's only 1 Overload. It's not that bad. And at the end of the day, if all else fails, you still have Brucon, and Brucon can just kind of get there in a long grindy game, as long as your opponent doesn't heal back up to 30. Like, those fireballs add up. Like, there are some games, like, generally your win condition against a mage is just to get enough chip damage in, and then just hope you roll fireball enough times.
I want to point out, by the way, very valid concern. The list that we have on the stream does not feature Glug the Gulper. You may find room for Glug. He's solid and also a big gulpy boy.
Yeah, I took out the Farsight for my Golden Glug.
Yes.
And yeah, and I had posted a picture in Discord of, I forget if it was the Coin Conceit Discord or the Off Curve Discord, of the angriest Glug, who was 29-28 Volcanomancied and survived, and was just sitting there on the board, vibrating angrily and staring at the opponent for a while. So, but
did he
Glug
smash? Did he smash?
Oh, he did. He exhibited extreme anger management at the end of that game. Yes, but Glug.
I had the misfortune today of not realizing what my opponent was doing by just not attacking into the explosive, and then they played Glug and attacked into the explosive. And I did not have a response to that.
Yeah.
Because my freezing trap is way too easy for them to just proc with rush. I think I was like completing my quest and playing the reward that turn. So that was a very large glug that we took in the face. Did not recover from that one.
Yeah, and that's kind of an important thing about Glug, right? Is that you want to play him when you already have a board, so you can trade off some minions and make Glug bigger so he survives. Because like 5 health, most decks have a decent way of dealing with 5 health a lot of the time. But if he gets up to like 8 or 9 or 10, like he's staying around, and he's going to be gulping at your opponent for a while. So you kind of want to make sure you can pump him up when you play him originally. But he is pretty good, and he has won me some games occasionally.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
I mean,
list that we have on stream is a little bit, I don't know if I'd say outdated, but it's closer to the original list that we're going around. It still runs brand school teacher. The latest VS list cuts those, makes room for, and it has a far side as well. The VS list makes room for a starfish, makes room for Glug, and there are also, what's the difference here? Something else that's different.
Is it hard running wind chills?
It is, and 2 wind
Yeah.
chills.
Yeah, I think that might be a little bit better because sometimes you do need the extra draw. I do like the school teachers only because they do give you a little bit more gas sometimes in the late game with like Bran and Bolner. Like you sometimes I have needed, especially with more paladins, like being able to go Bran into bio is sometimes the only way that you can get through a paladin unless you're actually running a Viper, which you might have to start. If there's going to be a lot of paladins. But just sometimes having that out is helpful to be able to get a bio or just like a little bit more damage, or sometimes like you need a tidal surge to heal because you don't really have a lot of healing in this deck outside of like Cookie and Brucon. So having access to a little bit of extra healing when you need it, it is sometimes good. But you're basically just running. It's weird as a control deck because you're not really running removal per se. Like it's almost like a rush warrior where your minions are the removal.
Well, Snowfall Guardian removes the minion's ability to do anything.
Yeah. It does. I mean, that's generally like your game plan against a more aggressive deck is that you're trying to get to Snowfall Guardian and then do Snowfall Guardian things. It's sometimes that's a little bit slow against something like a Demon Hunter a lot of the time, just because they have so much damage that they can hit you from hand and they don't really care about the board. And you don't necessarily have something like a Lightning Storm to be able to deal with like a Vanguard turn early. Like Schooling will get rid of some of that, but it's sometimes a little bit slow. But also the overload on Lightning Storm is a lot. So, I guess you could run Maelstrom Portal, but that's probably not the way either. So, but I mean, a lot of the time this deck just kind of gets there, and it's kind of hard to envision how when you're looking at the deck, but sometimes just like a bunch of fish on board is just enough, right? Like the amalgams will give you things like there's the Murloc who does 2 damage if you're holding a Murloc. There's the one that gives your Murlocs rush. You can get more Flurgles. You can get, sometimes you just get a War Leader, and that's enough to push some damage. Sometimes you just win with Bolner into Discounted Mutinous into Macaw. Like I had a game against a Druid where I posted in Discord. I said, just ignore the rest of the game because the last turn was all that matters. Because I went Bolner, Mutinous, Macaw, and ate 2 of their dragons and their Kazakhstan, and then the game ended. So, sometimes that's just a way that you can deal with it, and that's kind of like the way you kind of have to beat the Paladin, right? Is just to eat the smite late, so at least they can't hit you in the face. Though sometimes just the big minions every turn, if they get Cariel early, can be a little bit hard to deal with the tools you have available to you.
I have to say, I did a coaching on this deck with Pilot. Shout out to Pilot. We got 3 games in our hour.
That's like every one of my coachings, yeah.
We went 0-3, and at the end of it, I had to send them the end scene to the film Burn After Reading, which You all should watch that end scene at the very least if you haven't seen it before. It is hilarious. The main line being, "What did we learn? I don't know."
Yep.
But it was just very strange. It was, I think, the VS one without the school teachers. So I do think that sometimes you can get punished for not using your Bolner at one point, and then you don't have the things to get the value out of it anymore. Or if you are running Brand, same kind of difference. There are times where it's like you miss your opportunity to take advantage of it, and then you just don't have draw, like you run out of stuff. It can be really clunky. What you're looking for, though, pretty obvious. Wildpaw Caverns on 4, that sometimes just solos Demon Hunter. There are times where
most of the time.
Yeah, they just don't have the answer. And if you are able to protect the frozen staggards, they keep getting frozen. All the things are based on them attacking. So unless they do something powerful with the unfreeze turn of playing their hero, it's a lot of times just game over from there. You know, you've got good rushers and things to keep them from killing those.
Yeah.
And
The cards you want to
removal
keep
doesn't
are
really.
the cards you want to keep are Schooling Sleepbreaker, Clownfish, and Wildpaw. That's your 1, 2, 3, 4. They're all really good. Wildpaw remains the second best mulligan win rate card in the deck, even with no Lightning Bloom.
Yeah. Yeah, and Demon Hunter in particular, like their removal just does not line up against 3/4s. Like they have predation to deal with it from hand. And
Fell Barrage.
They got Fell Barrage, but I mean the thing is that they can deal with 1, right? But they have to deal with 3. And dealing with 1 is doable. Dealing with 2 is doable. It's the third one that tends to get them. And then once you have that one keeps going face every turn, no matter what else happens. And even if they Kurtrus, like if you get an early Wildpaw down, the Kurtrus minions may not be enough to actually kill you. They may need to use both the Kurtrus minions just to kill the Wildpaw, the staggered, because they haven't been able to attack most of the game. So like even the Kurtrus minions are not all that scary because they've been spending half the game with their face frozen. So I've had games where they've gotten me down to 4 early, and then I just stayed the course, stuck a Wildpaw Cavern, and won that game because once you keep freezing their face every turn, they have Kurtrus and they have G-Lag to try to get the board back late, and if they don't find either of those or that's not enough, then you're able to like snowball a board in the other direction pretty quickly if they can't actually remove everything.
Yeah, Sathino is a third thing that can work in their favor. She's pretty strong, and it is worth noting that Kurtrus, you should know this if you don't know this, listener, if they are frozen, then they play Kurt, they unfreeze. You should know that. So the minions can kill the staggards, but also if they have a weapon equipped, they can attack the turn they play Kurtrus. Yeah. Even if you have them frozen, it overwrites the hero. The hero is no longer frozen because it's a different hero now. So just make sure you're aware of that. But yeah, Wildpaw Cavern's good against DH, obviously. That's been the case since Wildpaw Caverns existed. But Sathino can deal with it, Fell Barrage can deal with it, minions and board can deal with it. But yeah, the second and third Wildpaw minions are the ones that are a pain in the butt to deal with. But
yeah, and even if Sathino does deal with it, they're using like things like Furies and multi-strikes and whatever that they're not attacking with, right? So like that's fine. Like that's still
Sigils of Alacrity and Predations to face are where I want to be.
Yeah, but if they have those in that work, but a lot of the time they have to like throw out Chaos Strikes or multi-strikes or Furies or whatever. And if those are getting played just to proc Sathino, you're completely fine with that. That's a trade you'll take all day.
Yeah, the matchup against Fel DH, the Shaman is heavily favored. It's in the 60% range. So you definitely want to be the Shaman in that matchup. Also worth noting, Cookie the Cook, completely the nuts against DH. You should keep that against Demon Hunter, and in general, it's one of the cards that you want to find. It kills all of their value minions and gains you somewhere around 8 to 10 life. It's just really, really good. And it's a Murloc, so Clowny discounts him. Of course.
And he procs Flurgle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's, before the nerf, what I would do with this deck a lot is I would play Bolner and Bran on curve, and then just solo with School Teacher. Because we are less likely to play School Teacher, I'm less likely to do that. But if I have Bolner on 2, Clownfish on 3, and I am not playing against pretty much just Demon Hunter, I'm going in. Going in. Maybe not against Warlock. Not against Warlock, because they'll just corner drag down. Right. But otherwise, I'm just going in. And if you get to Boulder Clownfish, the world is your oyster. You can do whatever you want to do. And you just kind of start to go off and play like you feel like Naga Mage. Old Naga Mage, which existed, unlike current Naga Mage, which doesn't exist. Yeah. Okay. So we briefly talked about mulligans. Are there any like matchup specific mulligans? I bet you're a Brucon keeper, Steve.
I am. Yeah, against control I am. Because sometimes, like, especially against mage, like against mage, I'll keep Brucon, because that's sometimes the only way you win. Right? Like the mage matchup is pretty bad in general. Like any matchup that doesn't care about board is generally not great for you, and mage is one of the ones that you'll see a lot. And so I'll usually keep Brucon, because usually the only way that you win is just by rolling Fireball a lot. And so having access to that early, it does help. I might keep it against Paladin too, just to try to get the extra burst. I don't keep it a lot, but I do keep it against like hard control decks that don't care about board. If I'm sure that that's what they are, if they could be a rogue, then I throw it away.
Yeah, I'm looking here. Against rogue, mulligan's pretty similar.
Yeah, rogue can be tough just because they get like so much damage quickly, and sometimes before you can get Snowfall Guardian online, and usually by the time that you can get Snowfall Guardian online, you've done enough chip damage to just be able to like use the Wicked Stabs and the Toots of the Nefarian to finish you off. So yeah, it depends. But yeah, and Starfish can help in that matchup too, to unstealth the 3/3 sometimes, and just be able to deal with them. That is kind of relevant.
I'm going to put the latest VS list on the screen here, along with the one that we're featuring, just because the lists are still up in the air a bit, and there are a lot of options here. I do think that there's a lot of merit to including a Starfish. For example, let's see here.
Yeah, Starfish is generally pretty good. You wouldn't think so, because it's like undoing all the work that you're doing with your Snowfall Guardians, but mirrors exist. And so if you are in a mirror, sometimes just being able to attack with your stuff and silence all their stuff is good. So that can be helpful. And also against like Beast Hunter, being able to just silence the bears, or even better, because a lot of your stuff will survive in a Jarin Saber. So if you can silence the Saber and then kill it, they don't get the Sunken Saber, which means that the pet collector doesn't summon a Sunken Saber, which doesn't just, crush you out of the game. So sometimes that kind of an early Starfish against that can be a game-winning call also. Yeah, I've run a list that was similar to this too, and I think some are even going so far as to play 2 Starfish, which is probably a little bit much, but having the extra wind chills is good for the extra draw. Just being able to get through the rest of your deck, because you'll draw the Murlocs out, which also means that the rest of your deck is better. But sometimes you just have games where you need a little bit more gas, and having the extra wind chills just kind of helps you cycle a little bit more.
Yeah, I'm looking at the matchups here. So the matchups that we kind of don't want to see right now, there are a few. Big Spell Mage is one of them. That's probably our second worst matchup right now. No, I'm not. Quest Hunter, Edel, you live in your universe. I'm not there yet. Both Holy and Mech Paladin are kind of not great, which makes sense. But they're pretty close. Curse Warlock is by far our worst matchup.
Curse Warlock is miserable. It's absolutely miserable to play against. You don't have a chance.
Right, and your snowfalls don't do anything. Yeah.
And against mage, like, you can't usually dump all your spells. Like, sometimes you can, but like you'll get both Wildpaw Caverns in hand, and you can't play both of them, or you'll get stuck with 2 commands of Neptulon, and you don't have time to play both of them before the sorceress comes down. And even just making it 5 is like enough for them to be able to start generating their value. So it's not like you can just like dump all the spells out of your hand and make the sorceress useless. You're generally going to give them something to hit with it, and then once they can start chaining either Drakefire amulets or runes, it's very hard for you to come back at that point.
Yeah. Looking closely at the mulligan stats, by the way, echoing what Donkey is saying in chat here. Against Big Spell Mage, keep Okani. Good card.
Yeah.
My general
Okani
rule with
can help
Okani
a lot,
is if they don't have coin, name spell. And if they do have coin, name minion. Because then they'll test and then play a minion. And then you'll counter it. Nice, Belinda.
Yeah, really great, because when there's such inflexibility there in terms of the big spells, as you say, it becomes super predictable, and they have to play into it. They can't really play around it too much. That's part of why I built my Quest Hunter the way I did with Ice Trap, because same deal. Either I kill their coin or I kill the big spell. And if they're trying to sorceress and we killed their coin, it just makes things an extra level of awkward for them.
Yeah, I mean, in this deck, you want to kill the sorceress, not the coin, because they'll just sorceress the next turn because they have time, right?
Yeah.
So, like, and you can kind of not give them time, but this will give them time. I mean, and Frostbite's actually good in the list for that reason too, because it won't deal with the sorceress ones, but if any of their spells that have not been Belinda'd or sorceress, like, they can't play them, right? Like, they have to find a mailbox dancer to play a 2-mana coin to be able to play their other spells. So, and Mage gives you plenty of targets to hit with a Frostbite. And sometimes, again, if you're running School Teacher and Bran, like, being able to have an extra spell to be able to brand them, brand bio Frostbite without having to rely on rolling a damage spell off the other noddling, is reasonable also. I'm trying to think of what you're good against is anything board based, especially Naga Priest. You dumpster Naga Priest, because like if they can't attack, if they're frozen, they can't kill you, and you don't care how big their stuff gets. So yeah, and then you just keep building up your board, and they just sit there and look at it, and then you beat them in the head, and then they're done. So I did beat Aveline on Boar Priest with this today, which I was not expecting to happen, and she just overdrew an amulet, which I was not expecting her to do, because that's like the only deck that she plays. But even we've seen even the best players in the world with that deck will occasionally make mistakes, and that's just how you outlive Boar Priest, is you just hope that they mess up and mess up in a way that's material, because I don't know if there's any other way really to deal with what Boar Priest wants to do.
Mutinous. But
yeah,
they have to also play pretty poorly. Yeah. They have to hold a boar in hand and wait.
Or you Okani a boar,
Yeah, you could Okani a boar. You could do a clownfish scam that they don't see coming.
Yeah.
If you have, so let's see. Hold on, let me do some math. How many discounts would you need if you're going second and you stick Bolner, and you go turn 3 clownfish, coin, mutinous? To turn 3, you could turn 3 mutinous. That's a very specific hand. It's a very specific hand. If you're playing the priest, you're against turn 2 Bolner, just throw out the shard. Just run it out there. You're not going to get a better chance. Just silence. Just don't let the Bolner live.
Yeah, Donkey's saying he's been advised to try to keep caverns for right before they get the weapon, which also could work if you just freeze their face repeatedly.
They can Zyrella you. The hero.
They get to attack once, right? But you're gonna have three stags.
They can silence the stags. But yeah, it's
yeah.
I'm
exactly.
not gonna dissect the nuances
Yeah.
of the late stage Boar Priest mid range value shaman matchup. I don't care. Boar Priest sucks. Don't play it.
Yeah. Unless
What
you're
else?
Aveline. If you're Aveline, go ahead. But
People can do what they want to do.
yeah.
All right. What other tips you got?
Yeah.
What else you
I'm
got
trying.
for me?
I'm trying to think of what else. What else there is. Yeah. I think that I mean, if you have, I think it's. I forget if it's 6 or 7 mana, but the Bolner Clownfish Ravager turn is something that you sometimes do need to look for. And especially when you do have Flurgle on the list, right? And then you have to kind of order that correctly. But using Flurgle to clear out and then build a gigantic board sometimes is just something that they can't deal with. And schooling also play it on one. And if your opponent is doing anything remotely slow, just play the piranha onto. They have to deal with it, right? If they don't deal with it, it's 5 to the face, both of them, right?
There was
Even it, yeah,
there was an excellent clip from Clark Hellscream. This is the only deck that he's enjoying right now, and even from before the patch, where up against Control Warrior, turn 1 schooling, turn 2 piranha, turn 3 schooling, more piranhas, just hit you for a lot. Like,
yeah.
it's if you can't deal with them, it's a ton of damage super fast.
I got all 6 on board at once, and they died pretty quickly. I think I got an achievement for it, but I just got both schoolings and I just played them all out over 2 turns, and like they were at like 4 by turn 5. It's like, well, what do you do? They cleared them, but it's like, well, great, but you're at 4. So, and I forget what they were playing, but it wasn't a class that could heal, and they just kind of gave up after that. But yeah, it's just, I mean, a lot of this is just understanding when you're a tempo deck and when you're a control deck, right? And then when you're a tempo deck, you need to play like a tempo deck. Building up a big board with Commanded Neptulon, and not trading into anything, or building up a big Murloc board, or just, slamming Glug and trading off a couple things. It's understanding what your win condition is. Your win condition actually hitting him in the face? Is your win condition Bolner Mutinous? Which against some decks it is. Is your win condition Brucon and Hope? Understanding what your win cons are is very important to this deck, because it doesn't give you a really clear answer of how to win. Like, you don't look at this deck and say, okay, I get it. Right? You look at this deck and you say, what is this crap? What is this arena deck that I'm looking at?
Yeah. If it was Bloodlust, you'd be like, okay, this is a Bloodlust
Right.
deck. But it doesn't quite
or
have
bioluminescence, right? Like, bioluminescence would also be very clear. Like, okay, I get it. I'm going to build a big board. I'm going to bio them. There's no bio on the list. There's no Bloodlust. You kind of need to figure out what your win condition is, and a lot of times you just kind of get there, and you may not even know how you got there, but you got there.
Yeah.
I would argue every control deck sometimes plays for pressure and sometimes plays for value, and usually does both. This is control the way Quest Shaman was control.
Yeah.
It's, you do stuff unless you have to stop them doing stuff first to get in the way of you doing stuff. I do miss school teachering for goofy brand lethals with No Fin can stop us. I do miss that going away, but unfortunately, I don't think school teacher is good enough anymore.
Yeah. But I mean, this is a very different control deck than like Holy Paladin, right? Like, Holy
Sure.
Paladin is not, it plays for tempo, but it's not usually winning that way. It's usually winning.
It's much
through
more off
grinding you out.
board, except for the corridor
Yeah.
creepers.
Yeah.
Which are kind of
Wow,
important,
And
actually.
the Leviathan, I guess.
strongly disagree.
Actually, now that I think about it, that deck is all minions, isn't it?
It's like half minions, half spells, but yeah.
Like, Holy Smite is about swing turns. Sometimes you win with a Smite, but a lot of times you play Garden's Grace just for tempo, and
get 'em.
usually for swing. I mean, you could name the deck Swing Swing. You Pyro Equality, and then you play, now that you've got the light whatevers, the 5/5 taunts, that is regularly how I try and swing things back, because I go Pyro Equality, and we've saved those taunts for that turn, you slam them down. If you've got a free Garden's Grace, you throw that on it too. Because the thing is, you can get more damage out of the Garden's Grace if you just play it earlier rather than if you save it for a Smite OTK.
Yeah. Yeah, like I had I mean, this is a bit of a tangent at the end of the episode or whatever, but I had a coaching with Megasa last week, and we were not doing very well with Control Paladin, and we had a game at the end of it where we just had a Light Ray that stuck, and we were sitting there waiting for Smite to come, and I'm like, just put the Garden's Grace on the Light Ray and hit them in the face. And I guess it was a Druid. It was either a Druid, oh no, it must have been a Warrior. And we're like, it's like what is it? It starts as a 5/5, right? It's a 15/15. What are they gonna do? They either get an Onyxia and they clear it, or they die. And they didn't, so they died. Right. And so like that's something you can do. But like that's something that it's not all the time, right? Like you're often with this deck, you're much more likely to just kind of build a wide board and try to challenge them on board and play almost like a mid-range deck. Whereas in Paladin, you take those opportunities when they're given to you, but you're much more likely to just kind of sit back and let them develop a little bit more to play into an equality clear. You don't have an equality clear in this deck. Your minions are your removal.
Yeah, Snowfall is a hell of a card.
Yeah. It only needs to be a removal for one turn. That's fair. It's more like a mass Maiev.
What I'm sensing is we probably should at some point cover role identification.
Yes.
Because that's much more important than labeling things control or mid-range or aggro or whatever.
Yes.
Is just knowing that whatever deck you're playing, you need to have good role identification.
Yeah, you're not as often the control in beatdown theory control as you are with other control decks. You are more often the beatdown, and you need to act like it when you're in those situations with this deck. Otherwise, you will lose more with it. Like if you sit back and say, well, this is control shaman, I need to remove everything, you will lose with this deck. Because that's not how you play.
Yeah, it's not an attrition deck.
Right.
It's what the way they've designed shaman lately, which I like a lot, is you can do stuff a little slower, but just have a bunch of stuff left over. They've done this actually not since Quest Shaman, but since Quest Shaman in Uldum, where you kept doing stuff, but you kept doing battle cries that gave you more value. And that's kind of where we are, except instead of a bunch of lackeys, you have Snowfall Guardian, which is like, I don't know if it's better, but it's better. We can invalidate most boards. I will say you have to be careful against Big Spell Mage, because they will just starfish and murder you. So like yes. Snowfall Guardian, that is why you really have trouble sometimes in the Big Spell Mage matchup, because if they can stabilize and Drakefire and your answer involves Snowfall, they will just starfish and you will die. So be aware that if you were in lethal range of a bunch of frozen minions and they have one board slot open, then you were in lethal range, period. Got to be aware of that.
Yeah, which is something to keep in mind when you're playing against this deck. Or you're in the mirror with this deck, don't fill your board up, right? And especially with this deck, when you're counting your minions, make sure you look to see if your Wildpaw Cavern is active, because if you have 6 minions and then the Wildpaw Cavern goes off, now you have 7, and if they play a Snowfall Guardian, then you're just going to press end turn and let them have a free turn.
Well, I think we surpassed our minimum podcast length of an hour and a half. So should we wrap it up?
We could do a shorter one if we wanted to, but somehow that hasn't happened. But yes, this week in Hearthstone, we're both processing and waiting. It's kind of strange because the meta is completely upended, but also it feels like there's this pause until we get some more stuff. Maybe we'll have new stuff next week. Maybe we'll frantically decide on Thursday afternoon what are we going to talk about. So we'll all have to play Quest Hunter or something. I don't know what we'll do. We'll figure it out. We'll have an Edel clinic. We'll see what happens. But yes, we can wrap it up. So we have many folks we'd like to thank. Check out the thanks section on the website at coinconceit.com. You can find our contact info, show notes, and our patron information. You can support us over at patreon.com/coinconceit. Thank you so much for that. Join us every week live by following us on Twitch at twitch.coinconcede.com. Join our community chats in our Discord at discord.coinconcede.com. Write into our email at coinconcede@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter at coinconcede. Like, share, and follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/coinconcede. Like some CC swag, heading over to our shop at shop.coinconcede.com. Big thanks to our producers, Number Theory, Doge TK, Proby1, Crush Cap, Beef Squatch, David P, Fade to Black Walu, Jeremy T, Bottle Caps, and Lucky. And big Coin Concede shoutouts. Edelweiss, you take it. Who are we shouting out?
Going concede to Ixar, our new game director. The line of
Hooray.
Bens is over.
Yay. Wait. Am I supposed to cheer for that?
Oh, I didn't mean that okay, that came out wrong, I guess. I'm not saying the line of Bens was bad. I'm just saying it's our first non-Ben game director.
I'm sorry, I didn't
Big
mean to
moment.
get defensive.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Also, breaking news, Luna Love just got rank 1 legend with Control Warrior. So,
Heck yeah.
All right. Sure.
well, we have had a lot of breaking news. This is less important than the Dean getting promoted news, but it's not unimportant, so we should throw that out there. Also, Coin Concede to, well, advice for the raid, Mr. Bungalow for the Twitch Prime, and who's got Coin Concedes ready? Who's got them ready? I don't even have the show notes open on this tab. Here we go. Okay. Does anyone have Coin Concedes?
What? I did mine to Ixar.
You did yours. Steve, do you have any Coin Concedes?
I guess I'm gonna coin concede to my PlayStation 5 for keeping me entertained while I've been locked in the house with 2 COVID kids for a week. But yeah, it's I'm just glad that we're through it, and we can get back to like living our life and maybe go to a Sonic for a hot dog at some point once we
hot dog.
Yeah.
Yes. I would like to coin concede. I would like to snap retreat to my opponent today in Marvel Snap, one of many. The first rage message I've gotten in that game came through today. Those of you who play the game might know there's no social system in that game. You're right. They found me in the official Snap Discord and messaged me directly to say,
Wow.
well-lucked, enjoy your free win. Smiley face. Honestly, made me feel right at home. So thank you, Marvel Snap community, for giving me this opportunity. By the way, for those of you that also play, they Moon Girl Shang-Chi'd me twice, and I still beat them. Yeah.
Those are words.
They sure are.
That sounds painful, actually.
Imagine if they double BGH'd me and still lost. Roughly what happened.
Sounds like you parlayed their starfish for lethal is what it sounds like.
Except, like, I had the same cards, and we had the same plays 3 turns in a row. And then they called me lucky, even though our opening first 3 turns were identical in both placement and cards.
So they should get good, is what you're saying.
But, well, you said it, so I don't have to say it. And I
Okay,
didn't say
fair
it to
enough.
them. I responded and said, thanks, GG. Because I just... yeah. And that's going to do it for this week on Coin Concede. So keep calm and don't snap. And if you see us on ladder, Coin Concede.
Coin concede.
Coin concede.
I yield for now.
Stopping recording.
I have. That's not the stop button. That's the stop button.
Don't you delete your audio on me.
No, not doing that. Not doing that.
Hey,
I went out through all this trouble to save it in mono. I'm not going to delete it.
I have finished editing my other podcast just in time to edit this podcast.
This one is not too long.
Yeah.
No, this should be pretty chill. My other one, because I comb through everything, takes like 8 hours. So I started breaking that up.
All right. Well, stream, we're going to go raid somebody. Who are we raiding? We're raiding...
We raided David last week, so I guess we should probably raid Swaya then, if you want to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, we're almost at 350.
I know.
We're about one away.
Give or take.
Bye.